Welcome to the White Lotus channel. Thanks for being here. Deck review. PORTADECADEA White 3.0, otherwise known as Mono White Heroic, with a splash of all the glitters, which is what everyone seems to be doing this day. The meta hasn't changed really, just slight modifications. The decks that are there are there. The point of the channel is if you can find something a little different that's competitive, we do a deck review of it and spend 10 days, and this is where we are. Mono White Heroic, or White 3.0 as he calls it. So what's going on? We've got 16 lands. It's kind of, when you look at the Bogle's bills, one of the things that are different in between the two, one could make the argument that Mono White Heroic might be a better choice due to mana consistency. There are times that Bogle's is spending some turns trying to get their mana worked just right. Mono White Heroic, being mono white, does not have that problem. 16 lands, low curve. Let's take a look at that. Mainly 1-drops. The one thing I did modify in this deck, in the main deck, just one thing. PORTADECADEA runs Secluded Steppe. I don't, with so few tap lands, with so few lands, I don't want any land coming in tapped. It became a problem too often. A lot of times you're only working with 2 lands total. I don't need one of those coming in tapped. You can do it. It's, I don't have that big of an issue with it, but I'd rather just have tempo and consistency and not look for that potential cycle effect later on. You could put Vault Scourge down here in the 1-drop section too, because that's what it is. So mainly just 1-drops, a couple 2-drops to keep things going on. Easy to play. There are some subtleties to it. I tend to play, depending on what I'm playing against, I can just jam it and slam it if I think that the opponent's not running a deck with removal or not very much removal. If I see red or black across the table, I'll be a little more patient. I'm usually keeping 1 mana open to bluff some type of protection. Benevolent Bodyguard is giving protection from colors. Blacksmith Skill, Emerge Unscathed. So you've got 8 protection spells. Plus Benevolent, that's 10, but that's 2 mana. So that's how I typically play it. If I'm going up against a deck like, I don't know, 1-land Spy or just something with any kind of combo deck that's not running removal, I'm just slam and jam. If it's Gardens, Red, something like that, a little bit more patient, get stuff on there. You want that the 2 lands. It would go something like Laguna, ban Trailblazer on 1, drop the 2nd land, maybe play Cartouche, keeping 1 land open, always trying to keep a land open. If I don't have the protection, I'm bluffing it. Laguna ban Trailblazer is so good against red. Vault Scourge, not so much. You have to be really patient with that. But it can get out of hand really quick. You can get, it's almost like Transformers, build a monster. Your creature can be 10/10 flying lifelink on 4, which is pretty ridiculous. It's exceptionally vulnerable to disruption. It's kind of all in on its game plan. So you're just going to have to play it the best way that you can. It's a low impact, high synergy deck. So some of your openings can be extremely hard to deal with. And then sometimes the deck just doesn't get there. Another thing we have in the sideboard, I did change this up a little bit. With so much all that glitters in the meta right now, or people trying to abuse it, I'm using the Standard Bearer, which is great because they got to target it instead of their own creature. Destroy Evil, getting rid of the enchantments or serpents with power or toughness 4 or greater. Revoke Existence for more artifact and enchantment removal. Beckon Apparition, decent against familiars, just trying to target a card that they're trying to target. Pretty simple deck, not going to spend a lot of time on it, but that's just where the meta is right now. He has gone Portadecadea's gone 2 first place wins and a top 8 within a week. So, on the right meta call, people are going to, there's not really a dominant deck in my opinion. There's a lot of terror, there's some burn, stuff like that, but there's not one deck that just dominates the meta. So much of what you're going to be doing is what's the matchups that I'm facing. If you get the right matchups, there's a lot of decks that you can play that just get you there. I think this has some game against certain matchups, and we'll see what happens in the gameplay. Match 1, Game 1, unknown opponent. It's a decent opening hand. 2 lands. I really don't like to see much more. 3 tops, but 2 is great to start. The 1-landers I'll keep depending on the rest of the hand to develop, but when you go game plan, don't know what we're up against. We'll get an idea because he's on the play. But we have 2 creatures, and I like 2 creatures in the opener mainly because if there's any disruption at all, you're only running 17 creatures in the deck, so you may be sitting here with a lot of dead cards. But again, low impact, high synergy, opening hand dependent in a lot of games. This is great, so we'll see what we got. Looks like we're dealing with affinity of some type, maybe Jeskai Ephemerate, we'll see. But I see red here, so I'm not leading with Vault Scourge because my expectation is that being killed on the second turn is not great, but they don't have a lot of ways to deal with an 0-4, so we'll just run. With double bridge by the opponent, this is probably Jeskai Affinity running all that glitters since everyone seems to be on that plan currently. Usually try to keep 1 mana up, but I'm going to jam this because I was not expecting removal on their 3rd turn. Wedding Invitation is great. And now we don't, we're keeping that 1 mana up. We have Ethereal in hand that we could have played, Cartouche of Solidarity. I'm fine with exactly where we are. It's better to protect what you have. Vault Scourge is a 10/10. Flying lifelink. And we win the game. We just get there faster. They weren't able to disrupt. It's a very slow start for them. But, we're basically, when you're playing that deck, Kenku would have been awful. I mean, we can gain a lot of life, but we're not getting through. So, yeah, we were able to get there. They're not able to disrupt. Game 1's an easy win. Let's go on to Game 2. Game 2 against Jeskai Affinity. Not a bad opening. Double Vault Scourge, 2 lands, 2 enchantments, a Revoke Existence to attack the mana base. We could potentially put it on a creature if necessary, but I think we can get there faster. See what happens. All that glitters is fantastic. Yeah, and from here we're just going to attack the mana base. We could try to get Vault Scourge built up a little bit, but I'd just rather keep them off mana. Don't like seeing basic mountain. Just playing it safe. Now we have multiple Vault Scourges to choose from. Destroy Evil is such a great card. To be honest with you, if I'm in white, I'm running Standard Bearer and Destroy Evil in the sideboard in some capacity. I go ahead and jam here. He can only deal with one of the 2 creatures that we have in play. He tapped out. I wouldn't have tapped that out, to be honest with you. He tapped double red. I probably tap the white. Keep a red open, at least bluff that you're going to burn if you try to do something. But at the moment, 7/7 flying lifelink. and that's game. And that's how a lot of games go. If you get there, you get there quick with creatures they can't deal with. On the flip side, if you don't get there, if they have disruption removal, we dodge, 2 destroy evils, which is some disruption. But when you play decks like Gardens or things like that, it can be really frustrating. But anyway, that's the current thing right now. He goes first place twice, top 8, and in my opinion, the new set's not really going to do much to change the meta. So we'll see what decks come out there that we can review that are a little different and competitive. But right now, this is what we have. Thanks for being here. Stay safe. Be well.